Across Australia, New Zealand and the South Pacific, this is the week's Adventist news in focus.
Hello, it's lovely to have your company this week. I'm Sibel Kute. In September of the year 2000, 189 countries signed up to the Millennium Development Goals, which were aimed at halving global poverty by 2015. But despite progress being made in many areas, it's clear that governments and the development organisations they fund have failed to make the impact they were aiming for. A major OECD report is critical of the focus of the aid and development community on health, education and social outcomes at the expense of security, justice and governance. According to The Guardian, countries struggling with war and other violent conflicts have lagged behind in meeting the Millennium Development Goals, despite attracting some of the largest aid packages.
I think there's been a lot of progress, particularly in areas such as education, environment sustainability, reducing child mortality, and even access to safe drinking water. I think that it's important that we focus on the positive things that have come out of the Millennium Development Goals, and it's just something that we need to now revise and look forward at the areas that need improvement.
Grieving family and friends are still in shock as they come to terms with the deaths of 148 people at Garissa University College, Kenya's worst massacre since the 1998 US Embassy bombings. Student and church groups have responded with vigils and protests, while the survivors of the shooting and grenade attacks are struggling to cope with their trauma. Christians were deliberately targeted by the Al-Shabaab gunmen. Some of the first victims were students gathered for morning prayers. A memorial service was held at the Christ is the Answer Church, and local Seventh-day Adventists say they're heartbroken by the deaths of 10 of their members, including the student leader of the university congregation. In what's believed to be an historic first, the international leader of the Seventh-day Adventist Church has met with the Secretary-General of the United Nations. Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon met with Dr. Ted Wilson and other senior Adventist leaders at UN headquarters in New York. At the meeting, the church representatives expressed their appreciation for religious freedom principles upheld by the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Ban Ki-moon said he welcomed the partnership of Adventist organisations in dealing with global issues, including health, education and poverty reduction. If his latest film is any indication, Aussie student director Nick Lindsay is showing that Australia's filmmaking reputation in the US is in safe hands.
In the back of my mind was this lingering thought, am I going to be able to even finish this thing? Am I going to find that finish line?
I Will Not Fear took out 3 awards at the recent Sunscreen Film Festival in California: Best Documentary Short, Best Cinematography and Audience Choice. Nick Lindsay, who is in his final year of film production at Southern Adventist University, directed the project.
What kind of a race are we on? We're in a race for our lives. What am I doing with my life? Is my heart right?
If you'd like to see more Christian news stories from around the world, why not check out the full half hour of Record in Focus, which this week also includes these special features. Archaeological Diggings magazine editor Gary Webster explores claims that Jesus' bones are still in Jerusalem.
Most scholars, most archaeologists do not go along with the idea that this is Jesus' tomb just because of the names. It's a very common line: Tom, Dick and Harry.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Trafford Fisher gives some tips.
I think it's about energy. You know, people seem to get energy by spending time with lots of other people, but then you get the person who, I just love to be by myself.
And we meet an Adventist artist from the UK who's passionate about using creativity for outreach.
We set ourselves up as kind of co-inquirers on the spiritual discovery as opposed to preachers. So that was...
So we're not necessarily experts, we're all on a journey, we can journey together for a while and learn from one another.
You can see Record in Focus every week on Hope Channel, the Australian Christian Channel on Foxtel, and on Digital 44 in Adelaide. The increasingly popular option is, of course, online. Our website hasn't changed. It's still record.net.au. Just click the Watch tab. Thanks for your company. I'll see you next time on InFocus Adventist News.
There's a crisis in Vanuatu. The cyclone that struck recently destroyed 53 Adventist churches. They weren't insured, and aid organisations don't rebuild churches. So our church members are stuck. Many of them have lost their own homes, their crops, their businesses. They can't rebuild alone. We're a church family, and families don't leave the ones they love suffering alone. So let's give a little to help Vanuatu a lot. Donate at hopechannel.com.